All right, this next one is going to be super exciting and a fun demo. Please join me in welcoming Nathan from Aisle411. Nathan. It's going to be fascinating for people. Welcome.
Thank you.
All right, so you've got a crazy demo.
I do.
Let's do it. Let's not mince words here. Let's do this demo.
All right, you want to jump right in?
Let's do it. Show, don't tell. It's the #1 rule of entrepreneurs.
That's right.
Let's show this.
All right, so for this demo, I'm actually going to be coming out into the audience. We're going to mix it up a little bit.
Okay.
So what I'm holding in my hand right here.
We're going to need to bring up that video source, guys. Thank you.
All right. So what I'm holding up right here is a tablet that has not been released to the market yet called Project Tango. Google just announced recently this new tablet device. And what's so unique about it is it has multiple cameras on the front, along with a couple of sensors. And what it allows you to do is take 3D maps of indoor spaces. So when you walk along an indoor space, you actually collect about 2 million data points every second. And it builds this 3D map. And what Aisle411 has done is we create in-store searchable maps for retailers down to the UPC level. So Google approached us and said, hey, could you take all your inventory searchable store maps and overlay it with 3D maps that are created from a Tango device? And so we've taken now what's really a utility and turned it into a truly engaging experience in the store. So when I come out in the audience right here, what I'm going to be doing is actually walking through this space here. And I want to point out really quick, we've got some props here catered to some of the people that are in attendance. So we have some beautiful Cole Haan shoes. Imagine that we're in a department store.
You're not showing yet, by the way. Take a look at the main screen. Okay. You're connected, it says, to Nyrus.
Okay.
Nyrus.
It might pop off for a second here.
Take your time.
So we've got some Cole Haan shoes.
Still nothing.
Right over here, we have a Kate Spade bag and a Michael Kors bag. And then up here, we have a Bonobos pair of pants and a Ralph Lauren shirt. So imagine that we're in a department store. And I'm going to actually take this device, and we should be seeing something on the screen here in just a second. Let me replug it.
Live demos, always risky.
Right.
We do appreciate them. Connecting.
All right, so there we go.
Okay.
So as I open up the application here, you're actually going to see an augmented reality of the space. And in the top right corner, you'll see a mini map of the space. Okay.
I think you lost your connection again.
Okay. Oops.
Almost. I can see it over your shoulder. Ah!
All right.
Congrats.
So as I turn through the space here.
Ah, we lost you again.
My goodness. It's beautiful if you guys can see it. All right, so as I walk quickly over to the shoes here, oh my gosh. I did. All right, so you can see right here, I've got these Cole Haan shoes augmented in the space. And as I walk a little bit further over here, sorry guys, as I step on you, oops. I'm going to see this actual Kate Spade bag. And I can actually click on it as I get close. And you see in the top left, it adds it to my bucket of saved items. And so I'm going to have to walk around a little bit here in the space. But as I circle back up to the Ralph Lauren products, let's see here. Getting a little bit off. All right. There's a good-looking guy right there. All right, so here I am. I've seen all these items. I see a 15% off and you see it's saved up there to the left. And you can see those Cole Haan shoes back over there. And as I see them, I might want to head back over to them. So we've placed those objects actually inside the store based upon where products are located. I can go ahead and click that as I get closer. Not close enough, I guess, to my zone here. But you guys get the picture of like creating these hot zones throughout the store, and basically the store comes alive. And this is something that we just signed our first retailer to build a proof of concept and deploy this into some retail stores. So we're going to be doing that over the next few months and try to really, truly bring together the physical world and the digital.
So obviously, and by the way, big round of applause for doing a live demo. We know that technically it can be hard sometimes, so no worries there. I think we get the point of it. And the issue there, just so people know, was you were just trying to do live video streaming.
Right.
That wasn't actually the product's problem. You could see very clearly on the, not iPad, but this Google Tango product. Now, Google believes that that Tango will be built into every phone eventually, or every Android phone?
I believe that's their hope and desire, yes.
Now, is this one of their moonshot projects, or is this like an actual project?
It's got a lot of power behind it, I believe. It's part of the advanced technology group.
And what it consists of is a depth sensor, is that right? So it knows how far objects are, and this can actually make a 3D model that you could put into a CAD program just by walking around with it.
Correct.
Now, what's confusing is, do you anticipate people will be walking around a department store like this? Because if so, there is going to be a lot of people getting hurt.
Right.
So what is this exactly going to be? Am I going to be walking through Disneyland with my phone out like this and seeing all the different possibilities of like what's inside of It's a Small World or what's inside that restaurant?
Yeah, so good question. So I think there's various use cases. So in a grocery store, you might actually have this mounted onto a cart that you wouldn't even hold. And they've designed the camera to be a fisheye, essentially, so it doesn't have to be always held up directly in front of you.
So it could be partially down or something. It would know where you are in the store based on what it sees visually?
That's correct.
Not GPS, not beacons.
Correct, yeah, good point. So there were literally no beacons, there's no hardware deployments to create that experience that I just showed you.
And that little heads-up display in the corner, you actually made a map of this room and the tables, and when you were walking around, it was accurate.
Right.
You were accurately walking around as if in a video game.
That's exactly right, yeah. And so we even, speaking of video games, one of the things that we envision would be really cool to come to life, and I have 4 children, believe it or not, 9 and under. And so what they want this to do is they want to be able to go into a Toys R Us and be able to pick their experience. So my girls want to go in and say, I want My Little Pony to literally walk me through the store and deliver my experience. And that becomes a nightmare to parents because they're begging you to go into the store for this experience over and over. But it's a godsend to a retailer like Toys R Us.
So a kid will be able to, and this is all filed under augmented reality, the sort of Japanese like phenomenon from 7 years ago.
Right.
Is now coming to the United States in the form of Project Tango and other things, Google Glass.
That's a good way to put it. Augmented reality, though, in the past has typically leveraged markers. So you would have to pre-program in some type of an image that the camera would see.
A QR code, typically.
Right. And then something would show up on the screen augmented. The real difference here is that it happens continuously. And as you guys saw the positioning of the user, there's next to zero latency, which is amazing. And as a company, we create indoor searchable maps for retailers, and we've tried all kinds of different positioning tools. Beacons do work great. They have some limitations if you're trying to deliver experience like this. There's acoustics. There's even magnetics with magnetic fields that we've done with a company called Indoor Atlas. But this delivers an amazingly low latency and accurate experience.
And is this necessary, or is this going to be like more of a gimmicky kind of like get people into stores kind of thing? Like, because it seems like it's more work to do this than to just look at the map at Disneyland, or is it better?
Well, I guess it depends on the experience that you want to have. And as we've seen here today, about 90% of commerce takes place at a retailer's physical store. And so why is that? It's about the experience, the physical experience. And so this will be one thing that we hope that retailers will say, hey, we're going to give this as an option to a customer if they want to come in and use it.
And you're doing this with you already have retail partners like Walgreens, Home Depot for your general mapping software, which is not this advanced. It's just showing where you are in the app.
Correct. And actually, locating items down to a section of an aisle. I mean, by show of hands, how many people have been frustrated and lost in a Home Depot store trying to find an item?
Oh, I mean,
About
you
90,
could also ask
right.
how many people have been to Home Depot.
Right.
It's kind of the same question, isn't it?
It is.
Yeah.
So we're trying to make things more convenient. But again, that's a utility. And it's like, when I go in for a purpose, I want to know where these items are. If I go into a grocery store, I may have a list, and I want to organize every aisle for efficiency. But there's also, some experience we can add to that. So if we know why you're at the store, what you're there to purchase, and where you are, we can serve highly relevant product recommendations. And then with this, we can add that whole gamification and make shopping fun.
And so you have a client who's going to be experimenting with this. Can you say who they are or not?
Not yet.
Not yet. But they're in the genre of a big box store, or what would we call them?
Yeah, they have well over 1,000 locations throughout the United States.
And what type of things will you be building?
Well, so this might give it away a little bit, but imagine going into a store and the store becomes your store. If you go online, let's say you go to Zappos.com and you want to pick out a shoe. You can actually go up and say, I want red shoes with a white bottom and this size for men. And all of a sudden, 5,000 shoes narrows down to about 5. And you say, boom, that's exactly what I wanted to look at. So imagine a similar situation going into a physical store. And let's say you're grocery shopping and you say, hey, I'm gluten-free and low sodium. So I don't want to see all the other junk on the shelf. And literally, like, you could have this mounted to your cart, and you would only see the products on the shelf that pertain to you. And so it's that cool feeling of like, hey, this is my store now, and it's really personalized. So that's one element that we're adding as a use case.
So I'll be able to find what I want, and there'll be more virtual things that would be interesting for me.
Right, very personalized.
Fascinating. And what about doing this, since it's gamification, on a mall level? Like, the mall operators are trying to figure out how to get people into the mall. How does this help them?
Right. Well, I think the mall is one of those destinations where people will go and be more social, and they'll want to discover things. So this could be a great opportunity for malls to engage their stores. And as you're going through the store, it takes window shopping to a whole new level. And there could be augmented elements that are at the edge of the store that are drawing you in. Some people may like that, some people might not, but it adds a new engagement functionality that's not there today.
So I'm walking through the mall and I see a character outside of each store with some kind of deal, and it's going to talk to me and hand stuff to me. I mean, it sounds like a mushroom trip or something. Like, you're going to be like...
That's a good name for it.
Yeah.
Right? An application called
Mushroom Trip, yeah. But I mean, it's kind of trippy, right? Like, are people going to be wearing these virtual glasses, like the Google Glass? I mean, obviously Oculus would take you there completely. But is that why Google's doing Tango? Do you think this is like an end game for when glass, becomes a mass product, which feels like it's a year to 3 years away from being something that a civilian would buy?
Yeah.
Maybe even, next year or the year after, civilians might start buying these. Do you think they're going to be walking around and like really be digging augmented reality?
I think it's definitely possible. And when you saw what happened with Oculus Rift, I mean, there's a lot of people that are trying to make that happen. And so I think right now the technology has got to be condensed, a lot smaller, consume a lot less battery. But I think it's very probable that it could be a wearable in the form of a glass.
And a more subtle one, perhaps, than the current glass technology.
Right, more fashionable. Possibly.
And the business model for this? Because it seems like it would be expensive to build these things, these experiences. Is there a business model?
Well, with what I just showed you today, there's not necessarily. So our traditional business model is kind of a freemium model. So we actually work with retailers. We create searchable store maps, and we open that up to a network. So for free, we will build that solution in the Aisle411 branded app. We also have partners like eBay who have taken our technology and put it into their Red Laser shopping application, which exposes it to millions of people. But then if the retailer would like to license our APIs and SDKs to put into their experience, then we charge a licensing fee for that. So I think with this new augmented reality experience, there will be a lot of custom design work that goes into it. It consumes a lot of data, and that's something to consider. So likely it will be somewhat of a licensing fee and also an advertising model.
If this works, what will shopping look like in 10 years, do you think?
That's a good question.
Yeah.
The lines between real and physical and digital will be very, very blurry, I think. Just as today, you know, from a shopper's standpoint, the lines between physical and online are very blurry. We don't really think I'm going online to buy this. We just think I'm going to buy this. And I think when you go to the store in 10 years, it'll be a mix of digital and physical that we won't even hardly think about. It'll be so natural. It's a bold statement, but I see it coming.
Interesting. So questions from the audience about augmented reality in retail stores? Some thoughts and questions? I think that people are very, taking this all in. Who's got a question? Oh, there's one right here. Great.
I don't mean to be a wet blanket.
Well, here, wait for the microphone.
But it seems like the last speaker's idea would be much more effective about re-intermediation and having a personal shopper. And if you could somehow get the personal shopping experience, that would seem, a lot more usable than just some, device which sounds very gimmicky.
Sure, it's a great comment. So I guess the question was, it seems like a personal shopping experience might be more in line with what a user wants than something that might otherwise seem kind of gimmicky. It's a great question, and one of the things we've learned, though, over the last several years is that a great customer experience means something different to every individual. So one of the research studies that came out recently from Accenture, and you've got to read this article, this report called The Digital Divide. It talks about 70% of smartphone users would prefer to use their phone to get help while they're in a store as opposed to talking to a physical person. And if I would have said that 5 years ago, most people would have thought you were nuts. But the reality is we turn to digital and we trust it, and we want that experience. Some people don't, some people do. But I think the consumer demand will drive how this evolves. And so far we're seeing that they do want the digital shopper experience.
You've seen the film Her, right?
I have not, but I've been wanting to.
Yeah. Who's seen the film Her? Okay, yeah, and if you haven't, then you can kind of see where this is going.
Right.
I mean, people will fall in love with some of these avatars and characters and prefer interacting with them.
Right.
I'm certain my daughter would much rather, talk to Elsa at the store and interact with Elsa, or Maleficent, this
right.
month. But, I mean, if Maleficent was available in that 3D, augmented reality thing, we would be in the Disney store for 2 hours. In fact, we would probably pay just to talk to Maleficent, and we would leave with nothing. I think that's actually the case. I mean, I think for Disney, this is would be extraordinary if you could interact with the characters.
Yeah, absolutely.
Involved in, each of their stores and each of the items, because they have 100 characters in every store now.
Oh, yeah.
They don't have the shelf space for all of them.
Right. It creates kind of a digital end cap, per se, and it takes advertising to where it's not really advertising, it's an experience. And one of the things that's really cool about this technology is with the precise positioning, you can layer in the sounds as well. So literally, as you're let's say, with Transformers coming up, you walk around the corner and you hear Optimus Prime fighting the big giant T-Rex. And you get there and, oh my gosh, they're doing it. Right, and then...
So like Minority Report, when the billboards are sort of talking to you specifically?
Right.
That kind of a thing?
Yeah, that's not too far away at all.
The characters are just running around the mall. Right. For the new Jurassic Park, we've got raptors running around the mall.
Yeah.
And you're interacting with them.
Yeah. I think it's gonna gamify shopping.
And when do you think we'll see this? Like, I mean, you're like really in the vanguard. You convinced some big box retailer to try this.
Right?
Well, I mean, obviously some people think like, oh, maybe this isn't ready for prime time or it's kind of crazy. And how do you get a big box retailer to take a flyer on something like this?
You know, so far, the ones that we've talked to, just a couple of visual images of what if you could create this. It's been a very easy sell because people just retailers are wanting to create an engaging experience at the store. And I think if they do that, they create a destination for the store, and people will naturally buy things.
Okay, great. Well, listen, this is absolutely, oh, we have one more? Okay, last one, good.
Where's the line of the technology drawn between your stuff and Google stuff? How much of that was Google and how much of that was your stuff?
Yeah, great question.
Good question. So actually, you know, with what you saw here too, we've also leveraged the Unity gaming engine. And so the way that Google positions it is they've got the hardware and kind of a platform, if you will, and then they want developers to develop on top of that. So consider it like we built an app on top of the technology, and then we also layered in the organized inventory data that we have from retailers. So we can easily take that 3D map and then layer down to literally a foot or less of what products are on the shelf. So hopefully that explains it a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, I think Google's idea behind Tango is they want to map everything in the world, and they know they're not going to get inside your house or, you know, every building, and so people carrying these devices will do their campus or their building or their office space or maybe even their house or a VRBO rental.
Right.
So there'll be, when you go to HomeAway, a 3D model of, you know, the house you want to rent or the apartment you want to rent on Airbnb.
Right. It's very plausible. And in retail, you could put one of these on a cart, and as it walks through the store, it's collecting and updating that map.
It's fascinating. All right, let's hear it for Aisle411. Fascinating stuff. Well done.
Thank you.
Awesome. Thanks.